Imagine sleeping surrounded by darkness, dampness, and the constant threat of death, all while waves crash and rats scurry beneath you. This was the harsh reality for pirates at sea, where every night brought dangers both seen and unseen. How did these men survive and even find rest amid such chaos? What clever tricks kept them alert and alive through endless nights on the ocean? On a pirate ship, the hours between sunset and sunrise were some of the most dangerous and demanding times for the crew. The watchmen, responsible for keeping a lookout through the night, had to rely heavily on their senses, especially their eyesight. One of the most common techniques used to maintain night vision was the so-called one-eye method. By keeping one eye closed while looking at sources of light, such as lanterns, sailors preserved the dark adapted vision in that eye. I slept that dark. This simple but effective trick allowed them to scan the darkness without waiting for their pupils to readjust after exposure to bright light. The technique was so valuable that it remains a part of modern marine training today, credited with saving countless ships from surprise attacks in the dead of night. When the sun finally rose, signaling the end of a long night watch, exhausted sailors would drag themselves below deck, desperate for rest. The lower decks of a pirate ship were the common sleeping quarters for most of the crew, and they were far from comfortable. These spaces were cramped, dark, and damp, offering little in the way of comfort or privacy. Historical records from the early 1700s show that, on average, each sailor had roughly 6 square feet of space to sleep in, barely enough room to lie down fully. The air below deck was thick with a foul mixture of smells that would strike anyone stepping inside immediately. A combination of mold, salt water, sweat, and vomit lingered in the air, creating an almost tangible stench. Because fresh air rarely made its way into these enclosed spaces, sailors quickly grew accustomed to the smell. After a few weeks at sea, many could no longer detect it at all. But visitors boarding captured ships often wrote about the overwhelming wall of stench that greeted them upon descending below. One naval officer described it as the smell of death without the courtesy of being dead, capturing just how deeply unpleasant the environment was. The dampness and filth made the lower deck an ideal environment for pests. Lice, fleas, and bedbugs were constant companions to the crew, so common that sailors often stopped bothering to kill them. To combat head lice, many pirates shaved their heads entirely or wrapped tight claws around their scalps. Despite these measures, it was not unusual for a pirate to wake up each morning covered in new bug bites. Rats were another significant problem on pirate ships. These unwelcome crew members scurried across the faces of sleeping men, chewed through ropes, and raided food supplies. A typical mid-sized pirate vessel might house hundreds of rats, thriving in the dark, confined spaces. Unlike insects, rats were actively hunted by sailors, not just to reduce the pest population, but also as a source of fresh meat when food supplies ran low. To keep the rat problem somewhat under control, many pirate ships kept cats aboard. These ship cats were highly valued and often treated well for their crucial role in hunting down rats. Even in the quiet of night, the sounds aboard a pirate ship were far from peaceful. The lower decks were alive with noise. Snoring echoed through the cramped space, while the wooden hull creaked and groaned with the motion of the sea. Conversations, arguments, coughing, and even the occasional fart could be heard without shame or attempt at privacy. The sick moaned in pain, and gambling games continued well into the night. Studies suggest that the noise levels below deck were comparable to standing beside a busy highway today. Privacy was virtually non-existent. Hammocks were often hung just inches apart, and every bodily function happened in full view and earshot of others. This lack of privacy led to a strange social dynamic among pirates. Some things were openly shared, while others remained closely guarded secrets. Many pirates carried small pouches tied around their necks containing personal or valuable items, the only truly private possession they had while sleeping. The dampness on pirate ships was relentless. Water constantly found its way below deck, whether from waves washing over the ship's sides or leaks in the hull. Clothes rarely dried fully, and bedding and hammocks quickly grew moldy. This constant moisture chilled sailors to the bone during colder weather. Medical studies of pirate ships show that around 20% of illnesses recorded were linked to the damp conditions alone. Light was a luxury rarely afforded below deck. A few oil lamps might burn in the evenings, but they were often extinguished before the crew went to sleep to reduce the risk of fire. As a result, pirates learned to move around in near temporal darkness, feeling their way to their hammocks and belongings. Despite these conditions, pirates could sleep through almost anything. The human body adapts remarkably to repeated stress, and many men snored peacefully even during battles, only waking when physically shaken. New crew members often struggled with rest for weeks before their bodies adjusted. Finding the best spot to hang a hammock was almost an art form. The ideal location would be near air vents or hatches for better airflow, but away from the ship's toilet area known as the head, or from food stores that attracted rats. These prime sleeping spots were often the subject of disputes or used as wagers in gambling. In response to these harsh conditions, pirates didn't just endure, they adapted. Veteran sailors passed down essential survival skills to newcomers, teaching them how to improve their sleep despite the challenges. These lessons included choosing the right sleeping location, rotating clothes to keep dry, and even applying grease to expose skin to repel insects, a practice borrowed from native Caribbean tribes. Pirates rarely undressed to sleep, wearing their clothes to stay warm and stay ready for sudden attacks. They improvised pillows by stuffing hats with feathers, cloth scraps, or even dried seaweed. Some went as far as using sacks of coffee beans for pillow filling, claiming the scent helped mask the ship's stench. Noise was managed through various tricks. Some pirates stuffed beeswax or cloth into their ears, while others timed their sleep around the ship's activity schedule, catching naps during quieter periods. Certain crews enforced quiet hours, during which gambling and loud conversations were forbidden, ensuring off-duty sailors could rest. Breaking these rules often resulted in punishment. Pest control efforts included hanging bags of strong-smelling herbs near sleeping areas and scattering mint or tobacco to keep rats away. Pirates sometimes tied their food rations to their bodies to protect them from theft by rats or other crew members. Metal discs attached to hammock ropes helped prevent rats from climbing into sleeping areas. Temperature control was another challenge. In cold weather, pirates would huddle together for warmth, ignoring usual concerns about personal space. In hot tropical climates, they soaked cloth strips in seawater and hung them near their hammocks, creating a simple cooling system as air passed over the damp fabric. On extremely hot nights, sailors often preferred to sleep on deck, accepting the risk of sudden rain to escape the oppressive heat below. Despite these clever adaptations, sleep on a pirate ship was always risky. Accidents such as being washed overboard during storms were common, especially for those sleeping on deck. Nighttime attacks by enemy ships often targeted crews while they slept, taking advantage of their vulnerability. Disease was a constant threat, spreading rapidly in the crowded, unsanitary conditions. Medical records show that disease killed many more pirates than combat did. Fires, pirate-on-pirate violence, and the danger of carbon monoxide poisoning from heating devices below deck also contributed to the hazards. Even with all these challenges, pirates found ways to survive and carry on with their dangerous, unpredictable lives. Their ability to adapt to such harsh conditions is a testament to human resilience in one of history's toughest environments. Sleep on a pirate ship was never a simple matter of rest and recovery. It was a time when sailors were most vulnerable, and the dangers lurking both from the environment and other humans made every night potentially deadly. Despite the clever adaptations and sleep hacks developed over time, pirates faced a range of risks that could claim their lives while they were asleep. One of the most common causes of death during sleep was being washed overboard. The ocean is an unpredictable and unforgiving force, and even the most skilled sailors were not immune to its power. Sudden storms could strike without warning, sending massive waves crashing over the deck. Pirates who had chosen to sleep on deck to escape the heat, or simply because there wasn't space below, were especially at risk. The force of these waves was strong enough to tear men from their hammocks or sweep away those who were resting on the open deck. Ship logs from the golden age of piracy contain grim accounts of sailors lost in the night, dragged beneath the waves while still unconscious. Studies suggest that roughly 1 in every 20 sailor deaths at sea resulted from such accidents during sleep. This stark statistic highlights just how dangerous even the act of resting could be. Nighttime also brought the threat of enemy attacks. Piracy was a violent business, and rival ships or naval forces often chose the cover of darkness to launch surprise raids. Attacking under the cloak of night gave them the advantage of catching their targets unprepared. A pirate crew caught sleeping could quickly find themselves overwhelmed when grappling hooks secured enemy vessels to their ship, and armed boarding parties swarmed aboard. Historical records indicate that almost 60% of pirate ship captures happened during the pre-dawn hours, precisely because that was when crews were most likely to be asleep or off guard. Being caught off guard at night could mean a swift and brutal end. leaving little chance to fight back or escape. Beyond the threats from the sea and enemies, illness was a constant and deadly presence aboard pirate ships. The cramped and unsanitary conditions below deck were perfect breeding grounds for disease. Illness could spread through the entire crew within days, often beginning with one sick sailor going to bed feeling unwell and never waking up. Common killers included yellow fever, malaria, and smallpox, diseases that thrived in the tropical environments where many pirate ships operated. Medical records recovered from captured pirate vessels revealed that disease claimed 5 times more lives than combat during the height of piracy. The combination of poor hygiene, contaminated water, and constant exposure to damp and moldy environments made sailors extremely susceptible. The ships themselves could become death traps in other ways too. Fires were a major hazard aboard wooden sailing vessels. The galley where food was prepared and areas near lanterns were particularly vulnerable spots. A small fire could spread quickly and with little warning, especially when the crew was asleep below deck. Without effective firefighting tools, a fire could become uncontrollable in minutes. Pirates caught below deck during such fires risked being trapped with no escape, while others could suffer fatal smoke inhalation before even waking. The danger of fire added another layer of risk to an already perilous existence. Violence among the crew was not uncommon, even during sleep. While pirates operated under codes that punished murder and required sharing treasure fairly, personal grudges and disputes often boiled over into deadly attacks. Nighttime violence could take the form of secretive assaults on sleeping crew members. Ship articles from various pirate crews sometimes included specific rules against attacking fellow pirates while they slept, indicating that such incidents happened frequently enough to demand formal regulation. These nighttime murders were a grim reminder that threats came not just from outside the ship, but from within. Another harsh reality was abandonment. Pirate life was unpredictable, and being left behind was a fate many feared. If a ship needed to leave port in a hurry, any crew member still asleep or incapacitated from a night of drinking ashore could be left behind. These men were suddenly stranded with no money, branded as pirates in hostile territory, and often faced imprisonment or execution. Being left behind was a brutal consequence of the ruthless world pirates inhabited. One silent and less visible threat was carbon monoxide poisoning. During colder weather, pirates sometimes brought small brazier pots or coal heaters below deck to provide warmth. Without proper ventilation, these heat sources could consume oxygen and release dangerous gases, including carbon monoxide. Because this gas is colorless and odorless, entire sections of the crew could die quietly in their sleep, unaware of what was happening. Several historical accounts suggest that entire groups of sailors were lost this way, making carbon monoxide poisoning a deadly and underestimated hazard aboard pirate ships. Rat bites, while seemingly minor, could also lead to serious and often fatal infections. Pirates were easy targets for bold rats searching for food or salt from human sweat. A bite that might seem harmless in normal conditions could become a serious infection in the unsanitary environment of a ship's lower decks. Without proper medical care, these infections could escalate quickly, sometimes developing into blood poisoning and causing death within days. Despite all these dangers, pirates managed to survive and even thrive in one of the most challenging living environments imaginable. Their ability to adapt was key to enduring the harsh reality of life at sea. Many of the sleep strategies and survival techniques passed from veteran sailors to new crew members played a crucial role in helping pirates manage their vulnerability during rest. For instance, pirates learned to choose their sleeping spots carefully, avoiding areas near the ship's head or food stores, which attracted rats and added to the risk of illness and theft. They also wore clothes to bed, both for warmth and to be ready in case of sudden attacks. Some applied natural insect repellents like grease on exposed skin, borrowing methods from native Caribbean tribes to keep bugs at bay. Improvised pillows made from hats stuffed with feathers, cloth, or even coffee beans provided some comfort, while earplugs made from beeswax or cloth helped manage the constant noise below deck. Quiet hours enforced by the crew helped ensure some periods of rest, with punishments in place for those who broke the rules. Pest control methods, including the use of herbs and rat guards on hammocks, also helped reduce the constant threat of rats and insects. Temperature control was another critical consideration. Pirates huddled together for warmth in cold weather and used wet cloths to cool themselves during hot tropical nights. Some preferred sleeping on deck in the heat, despite the risks of rain and being washed overboard. Pirates even developed psychological aids for sleep, such as sleep tokens, small objects like polished stones or carved wood pieces they held while falling asleep. These tokens offered a small but meaningful sense of security in an otherwise harsh and uncertain world. Although sleeping on a pirate ship was fraught with danger, pirates' resilience and adaptability allowed them to carry on day after day. Their lives were filled with risk, but each night's rest was essential for survival and for preparing to face the challenges ahead. The reality of sleeping aboard a pirate ship was a mix of hardship, ingenuity, and constant vigilance. A reminder that in the golden age of piracy, rest was never guaranteed, and every day was a fight against the odds. Life aboard a pirate ship was a constant balancing act between periods of exhausting work and the desperate need for rest. The demands of sailing, fighting, and navigating meant that every member of the crew had to stay alert and ready to respond at a moment's notice. Maintaining this level of readiness while coping with sleep deprivation and harsh living conditions was one of the biggest challenges pirates faced during their voyages. One key to managing this challenge was the system of watch duties. The crew's day was divided into watches, or shifts, to ensure that someone was always awake and watching the ship and surrounding waters. These watches typically lasted between 2 and 4 hours and rotated around the clock day and night. The responsibility of keeping a lookout was crucial because the seas were full of potential dangers, from storms and reefs to enemy ships and other pirates. To help with night watch duties, pirates employed a simple but effective trick known as the one-eye method. This technique involved keeping one eye closed while looking at dim light sources like lanterns. By doing so, they preserved the night vision in the closed eye, allowing them to quickly scan the darkness without waiting for their pupils to adjust each time. This method not only improved their ability to detect threats, but also reduced eye strain during long hours on watch. This trick is still taught in modern marine training, proving how effective and practical it was. The importance of watch duties cannot be overstated. A moment of inattention could mean the difference between survival and disaster. Pirates had to stay alert to spot potential enemies approaching under cover of darkness or to identify changing weather conditions. The watch system also helped distribute the burden of vigilance so that not every sailor was forced to remain awake for extended periods, which would have been impossible given the exhausting nature of life at sea. However, even with watches in place, sleep deprivation was a serious issue. The cramped, noisy, and often damp conditions below deck made restful sleep a rare luxury. New crew members often struggled with the adjustment, spending weeks unable to get proper rest. Over time, pirates developed a tolerance for the harsh sleeping environment, learning to sleep through the constant noise and discomfort. Experienced sailors could snore peacefully even amid the chaos of battle, only waking when physically shaken or called to action. The physical toll of this lifestyle was significant. Sailors had to deal not only with the mental strain of constant vigilance, but also with the effects of fatigue on their bodies. Long hours of hard labor, irregular sleep schedules, and poor nutrition weakened their immune systems and left them vulnerable to illness. Medical records from pirate ships show that many ailments, including those related to exhaustion, were common and sometimes fatal. To mitigate fatigue, pirates developed routines and habits designed to maximize the quality of the limited rest they could get. For example, they carefully chose their sleeping spots to avoid areas prone to excessive movement or unpleasant smells. The center of the ship was often preferred for its more stable ride, while locations near air vents or hatches provided better airflow and a chance to escape the oppressive dampness below deck. These prime spots were highly sought after and sometimes led to disputes or were even used as gambling stakes. Clothing was another factor in managing comfort and readiness. Pirates rarely undressed to sleep, choosing instead to wear at least one set of clothes. This practice helped maintain warmth in the damp environment and ensured that they could respond quickly if an emergency arose during the night. Many kept a second set of clothes to wear while the other dried, as constant moisture made it nearly impossible for clothing to stay dry for long. In addition to these practical measures, pirates borrowed some techniques from native Caribbean tribes and other cultures they encountered. One such method involved applying a layer of grease to exposed skin, which acted as a natural insect repellent. This was important because the bugs on pirate ships, lice, fleas, and bed bugs, were relentless. Despite these efforts, waking up with numerous insect bites was a common experience. Noise was another constant challenge. The wooden hull creaked and groaned with the ship's movement, while snoring, coughing, talking, and even arguments filled the cramped sleeping areas. This continuous noise made silence nearly impossible and meant that pirates had to develop a strong ability to block out distractions in order to rest. Some crew members carried makeshift earplugs, fashioned from beeswax or cloth, to muffle the cacophony. Others learned to align their sleep schedules with quieter periods, sometimes enforced by crew rules that designated quiet hours during which gambling and loud talking were forbidden. Breaking these rules could lead to punishment, usually extra work shifts, emphasizing how critical rest was to the ship's overall functioning. Despite these adaptations, many pirates still struggled with insomnia and poor sleep quality. To cope, they turned to various remedies. Rum was commonly used as a sleep aid, though excessive consumption often led to restless and low-quality sleep. Natural substances like willow bark, which contained compounds similar to aspirin, were chewed to relieve pain that might otherwise prevent sleep. Some pirates carried small sleep tokens, objects such as polished stones or carved wood, which they held onto as a form of psychological comfort, helping to calm their minds in the uncertain and often frightening world of piracy. Managing pests was a daily concern as well. Pirates developed several inventive ways to keep rats and insects at bay. Hanging small bags of strongly scented herbs near sleeping areas helped repel some insects, while mint and tobacco were scattered around to deter rats. Food was sometimes tied to the body to prevent theft by both rodents and fellow crew members. Metal discs called rat guards were placed on hammock ropes to stop rats from climbing down into sleeping spaces. These simple but effective measures helped reduce the constant nuisance and danger posed by pests. Temperature control was another ongoing battle. In cold weather, pirates often huddled together to share body heat, setting aside personal space concerns for the sake of warmth. During hot, humid tropical nights, sailors soaked strips of cloth in seawater and hung them near their hammocks. As air passed over the wet cloth, it created a primitive cooling effect that offered some relief from the stifling heat. On particularly hot nights, many pirates chose to sleep on deck, accepting the risk of sudden rain or rough seas in exchange for cooler temperatures. Despite all these hardships, pirates showed remarkable resilience. The harsh conditions, the constant danger, and the irregular sleep patterns could have broken their spirits. But instead, these men adapted to the realities of their environment. They developed a culture of sharing survival skills, passing down tricks and tips that helped each new crew member endure the brutal lifestyle. This camaraderie and shared knowledge were essential for maintaining a functioning crew capable of surviving long voyages on the unpredictable seas. In many ways, the pirates' life was defined by how well they managed the delicate balance between work, rest, and alertness. Their survival depended on it. Every night brought new threats, but also opportunities to master the art of sleeping at sea. From using the one-eye method to preserve night vision, to crafting makeshift pillows and earplugs, to timing rest periods around ship activities, pirates showed a level of ingenuity and toughness that matched their reputation. Ultimately, the pirates' ability to navigate the challenges of sleep and fatigue played a crucial role in their survival and success. Without these adaptations, the harsh conditions of life at sea would have claimed even more lives. Their experience offers a fascinating glimpse into the daily realities of a lifestyle, often romanticized but rarely understood in its full complexity.